Welcome to AM News Network presents The Morning Report with Rachel Baird and Ed Peruta. I'm Rachel Baird. This is Ed Peruta. We're here every Monday through Thursday from 7 to 7:30 a.m. transmitting live from our American News Media Center studio in Harwinton, Connecticut. Also join us on Saturdays from 4 to 6 with Matt Tyszkka. How are you doing, Ed?
I'm doing fine. How you doing?
You know, I forgot all about yesterday. I knew it was July 24th, but I forgot about the significance of that date. That was the date that the reply brief, or the brief in opposition, I should call it, was due from the County of San Diego, Sheriff Gore, and PIO Jan Caldwell, officers Brenneman, Allensworth, Proctor, Seaver.
Go ahead.
And another one. Who's the fifth one?
I don't know, and I don't care.
I know. Who is the fifth one? Five officers.
I started reading it last night.
It's our First Amendment case that American News and J.C. Playford have out in California. We filed it back in 2012. It went through 3 amended complaints. Judge Benitez finally granted summary judgment, you know, on the remaining counts. We appealed it to the Ninth Circuit. We filed a brief, I think, in February. And now the county has filed their opposition, and I have to check the rules. I either have 10 or 14 days to file a short reply brief, and depending on what we see in there, it sounds like you've already found some things you want to reply to, Ed.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can reply and write the synopsis of what occurred, and by omission, make it look good.
Well, that's what lawyers do. They bring facts to the attention of the court that favor their side. You're supposed to kind of be even and objective as a commissioner of the court. But on the other hand, you are representing a client. You are trying to win. You believe in your cause. And so it makes you less than objective sometimes about what facts to put in and what facts not to. So I understand that. But it's the judge's job to take both sides' arguments and to look at the case themselves sometimes and come up with their own theory, and I've had judges do that as well, and make a decision based on the law.
Okay. There are out there on the internet video recordings that document a police policy and practice regarding cameras. Now, this whole thing about unlawful arrest, unlawful search and seizure, retaliation, and they talk about March 25th, the day of the multi-crash on State Road 67.
Well, I mean, March 25th is their Achilles heel. I think they feel more confident in the other 3 arrests because in 2 of them that were combined for trial, J.C. Playford was arrested 4 times, and we go over them in the complaint. And 2 of them, they were combined. He went to trial. It was a hung jury. He felt pressured, as is evident in the transcript, to plead to a lesser charge of disorderly conduct because, you know, he was worried about the judge's indication that if he went to trial and lost, he would be going to jail for a while. Yeah. And so like a lot of people, like the vast majority of people, he made a deal and he pled. We argue, and it is the law in California, that there can be probable cause for an arrest, but it can still be retaliatory. Now, that's not the same in all circuits. In the Second Circuit, probable cause wipes out any claim you might have.
Well, let's look at
the validity of the arrest.
Let's look at March 25th, and I'm going off memory right now. There is no question that J.C. Playford got dropped off approximately half a mile to a mile from the accident scene. And when he started to walk to the accident, an announcement was made by the officer at that point to the officers at the scene that J.C. Playford's coming. And by the time he gets there, Officer Brenneman, Deputy Brenneman, is now starting to put up a yellow tape. But he let a credentialed member of the media / public walk right down there without any interference whatsoever.
Your cell phone is ringing. Please come answer the phone. Yes?
The morning report.
No. Dan's got it.
Dan got it?
Control. So they knew who he was. They knew by then what he does.
We have a caller.
Bangkok, Thailand. Good morning, Bangkok.
It was Good Morning Vietnam last week, and I want to go back.
Oh, jeez.
I really like Vietnam. I have a question for Rachel.
Really?
Why is it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. What were you saying really to? That I like
Well,
Vietnam?
Yeah, because I got a book from the library, and I am learning to make faux soup, and I'm doing a pretty good job because I've made it a couple times, and I think it's better than the restaurant that I usually go to. So do you eat that when you go to Vietnam, the faux soup?
No, I'm a diabetic, so I stay away from bread and all the good stuff.
Okay, well let's get to the serious stuff then. What's going on?
He has a question for you.
Oh, okay, I'm ready.
Here's the question, and we'll wrap this into J.C. Playford, who's one of my favorite people. So why is it that you can't prosecute these cops? Because there's always two of them, not just one. They stand there, they get together, and they make comments like, what can we find to charge him with? What can we do to jam this guy up for months and months and put him in jail because they just don't care? Frankly, I won't even say what I really want to say, but here's the thing. Why can't they be brought up on charges under Title 18 for conspiracy for deprivation of constitutional rights? It's in the law. Why can't we use it?
Well, they can be, and it's happened a couple times here in Connecticut. I think there was a police officer down in Meriden that was arrested, right, by the feds for I don't know a lot about that case, but
he beat somebody up in lockup, and he was the police officer was the chief's son.
And so you're right. It can definitely happen. It does happen, but like a lot of things, the feds usually take cases that are very, very well supported by evidence. And they do that in all their cases, whether it's a drug case or a murder case or anything. I mean, they go after the cases that are pretty firm and leave the crap a lot of times to the state. And the state does not like arresting police officers at all. And so I don't know what else to tell you about that. There's not a will on the part of the authorities to crack down on these crimes.
I had to get the will, because this thin blue line, and the problem with police, and I'm going to tell you flat out, and I know Black Lives Matter has disappeared, and all the other ones have disappeared. Now we got a whole bunch of nutcases out in the West who wear bandanas, masks, and throw God knows what at people. So now we've got a new set of nudniks out there causing trouble. But what is it that will motivate these prosecutors to go after the police? Because until the police decide that they're going to stop sticking up for the rotten apples, until they decide that they're going to thin their ranks of the scumbags, because they do the exact opposite. The pendulum swings all the way the other way, and they protect these scumbags. And you know who the scumbags are. You've seen them. You've seen the videos of them. It's pretty clear. The video doesn't lie. And so you've got these people out there who could care less about your rights, who even say it, and then they deprive you of their rights, and they think it's a joke. We have no teeth, and I don't understand why it is that we can't go make the government prosecute these people, get rid of them, because we'd all be better off if the police had more professional people. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think that they want to, that they really want that. I think that the authorities, whoever they are at the top, don't want somebody. I had a friend of mine who became a policeman up in, I forget what part of Pennsylvania it was, upper Pennsylvania. They got a lot of problems up there. He went and he took his Constitution. He's a libertarian. He walked around with his Constitution in his pocket. When he was asked to violate the Constitution, he told
He's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah, he wasn't there long.
He was there about a year, and then they brought him up on all sorts of disciplinary actions because he wouldn't follow unconstitutional orders. He would pull out his Constitution and say, hey, here's the Constitution. I'm not doing that. It's unconstitutional. And I took an oath, as you did, that that's not what they want. It's pretty clear. And we, the people, seem to put up with this crap on a basis all over the country, and it's not right.
Well, I'm gonna give you my theory on this.
While you're talking, I'm going to adjust the camera.
Yeah, my theory on this is that from the time we are children in the United States, we are indoctrinated in the same manner as, you know, we talk about how in old communist Russia or in China, how the kids, you know, they're told this and history's revised and they're propagandized. To me, we do the same thing in the United States when it comes to police and the authority. And kids are so indoctrinated, it's so subtle, it's so ingrained that when they become adults, they just can't wrap their head around the fact that police officers are people like everybody else, and that they can be good, they can be bad, they can lie, they can save your life like anybody else. Because from the time we're small, we're taught that almost you don't have to defend yourself. You're not responsible for yourself. The government's responsible for you. If you have a problem, you call the government, you call the police. And so you're telling kids that police officers, you know, you're indoctrinating them basically with police officers are superhuman, they can't make mistakes, and at the same time, the fact that they can't make mistakes and the fact that they're superhuman, your life depends on that. So you can imagine when you get older and you're asked to no longer believe that police officers are superhuman and that they don't make mistakes, what happens to my protection? What happens to the safety net that I felt I had my entire life? It goes away. It's like in the courts. If we have judges who start actually making rulings that they find the police officer's not credible, let's say it's a motion to suppress, and the defendant testifies one way and the officer testifies the other way. The officer always wins, because if the judge sits up there and says, I don't believe the officer, I believe you, the driver, what happens to our whole sense of security and safety? It goes away. We're out there on our own in the wilderness once we stop believing that police officers are superhuman and are going to do everything and save us. And we just can't give that up. We can't give it up. And you can have on the news one day, you know, the worst story about police officers. You can have a spate of stories about police officers, and I go in and there's a panel of 50 potential jurors. You ask every one of them, and basically all of them will say to you, yeah, it's going to be hard for me to, you know, believe that a police officer could lie. Yeah, no, police officers, there are heroes. And you're thinking, do you watch the news? Do you have any idea of the allegations and the videos and everything else that has gone out there? And the only thing I can attribute it to is people have such an investment in their sense of security that's based on police that they can't admit to themselves that there are problems. And I think that, and thanks for asking that, because that is my theory.
And yet often you dial 911 and you die. But you have, and I want to say something controversial which shouldn't surprise you at all. I want to bring back slavery. Let me preface that. When a police officer puts somebody in jail wrongfully, when he takes your time, when he invades your life, when he causes you to lose your liberty based on whatever it was that made him mad or anything like that, I think he should become your slave for a period of time. I think that might cure our police officers of this affliction that they think that they can run our lives and ruin our lives at will. And the ability for them to, you know, you got to think about this. the kind of person, the kind of human being, and I'm going to say human being very liberally in this case, the kind of human being who can sit there and decide, you know what, I just don't feel like I like this guy, so I'm going to make sure he spends the next 3 years in jail. Case in point, that New Jersey case with those 3 officers, the ones that cried at the defense table when they was found out on the video that while they were beating this guy and he had his hands up in the air, remember the black guy that they tried to put in jail and they said that he assaulted the police officers? Meanwhile, he's got his hands in the air and he's not doing anything, and they're yelling, "Don't touch my gun! Don't touch my gun! I'm scared! Don't touch my gun!" And this guy's got his hands in the air while they're yelling that. And the only reason they were caught is because another cop rolled up on the scene with his dash cam on and caught the whole thing on camera while they were doing what they were doing. So they got caught in court because the defense was, I guess, pretty good at this point, and the defense went and showed the court that, and the court turned around, dismissed the cases against the black man who had done nothing wrong. Nothing. He had complied, but it still didn't matter to these 3 chuckleheads. And then the judge turned around and had them arrested and charged for obstruction of justice, for lying, for filing false police reports. He threw everything at them, and that's exactly what he should have done. Me, I say instead of putting them in jail where they would be in danger, I say make them somebody's slave for a while.
Well,
Make them make it right. Because how do you give somebody back their life? I don't even care if it's a day. I don't care if it's a week or if it's 3 months that somebody sat in jail because they couldn't make bail. And they had a bogus charge put on them by some police officer who, deep down, is just a scumbag. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think they want to hire smart police officers. I don't think they want educated police officers. They don't want anybody that will think in any way and say, no, you know what, I don't think I'm going to do that because it's not right. They want the ones that are following orders, and I think all of these problems stem from the top. Same thing with oh God, I'm going to forget, with J.D. Playford. They go after him because they don't like what he does. Well, too damn bad. You saw that video where they were at the courthouse where you got that idiot cop holding the door shut with his weight, leaning backwards to hold the door open so JC can't get into the courthouse. And you got every one of those idiots from the major networks who are going, well, don't let him in, but let us in. We got a real problem in America. We got a country full of idiots.
well, they do have what I think you're referring to as slavery in the court system, and it's called community service. So sometimes cases are.
The guy that was wrong. But the guy that was wrong never gets any community service. You know what? Go cut his lawn for a year. Go do your community service cutting the lawn of the guy that you wronged.
Exactly.
Instead of cutting something else. That's the problem.
Yeah,
everybody benefits, but the people who were harmed.
I mean, to be fair, what is going on? I find it hard to believe that every officer that joins the police force isn't earnest about protecting and serving. I
think
believe
there's okay. My turn.
Yeah, go ahead, Ed.
All right.
Worn down over time.
Exactly.
I don't think that any recruit that goes into police training has any intention of violating someone's rights or doing anything wrong, but by association and through osmosis, and because of the culture, he may get tied up in things that he doesn't like, but he does, or he wouldn't have done, but he gets involved, and all of a sudden it's lucrative. Now, let me just say something. I used to do a show on public access cable called the Kitchen Table News. And I had an opening that said, in part, this is the Kitchen Table News, and we're going to tell you things that you don't hear other places, because in America, more real news travels across the kitchen tables of America than all of the news desks combined. And here's an example. A parent because of privacy concerns, is prevented from knowing what's going on in our public schools because of privacy. But every kid in the school knows what's going on in the school. So the kids know more than the parents. That's example number one. Number two, and let's go to J.C. Playford. J.C. Playford had a history of responding to and documenting breaking news events without incident. Something happened where they identified him, targeted him, and said, we know how to get him off the street.
Well, we allege in the complaint that he videotaped an individual, Alan Baker, who was, the victim of excessive force.
It's in the complaint, but just the generics of it, that's what happened. And that does happen. Now, since JC filed his complaint initially, the world has become aware of cell phone videos of police misconduct, dash cam videos of police misconduct, body camera video shot by policemen of misconduct, surveillance at gas stations when they shoot somebody getting out of a car, misconduct. And there's going to come a point where every member of a jury who has watched any news or been involved in any type of, what's big on YouTube right now, is going to start to be aware of the fact that these people are not the gods they're made out to be. I grew up in a family where my grandfather was a town constable. I have two cousins that were chiefs of police. I have a brother that was a state trooper, and I was a probationary policeman. I support law enforcement, but I don't support bad law enforcement. And the good guys have to weed out the bad guys, or the smell is going to come on to them.
Well, Howard, I don't know if we've discussed it a number of times over the past 6 months, so I hope this is kind of fresh to you, but there's an officer in the city of Hartford named Officer Stephen Barone, and it was found in an internal affairs investigation, and he admitted to it, that on June 4th, when he was rolling up to the scene of a crash at the end of a car chase, numerous officers around the two occupants of the car, that he turned off his dash cam due to muscle memory. Okay, and they also have him on the radio. He was the supervisor at the scene, or the person in charge with writing the report, I should say. They also have him telling another officer, when the officer told him that he had rammed the vehicle, he said, well, he backed into you, right? And later on, he explained that he was only joking. This officer is on the promotion list to be sergeant. I don't think he's been made sergeant yet, but he's still out there in the field making arrests, and other officers know that he's still out there, and that's a problem.
And I know that there is at least one officer in the state, there was one officer in the state of Connecticut who is no longer an officer in the department where they had a habit of turning the camera up to the sky when they got out of the cruiser.
Okay, so anyway,
but
let's let Howard talk. He called in.
Howard, all I'm going to say...
Yeah, and you hear me. Look, I've been talking about this. I'm 55 years old. I'm finally old enough to get a discount at Denny's, and I can't even find one in this country. Not that I would want to.
Oh, no.
But I've been doing this for a long time. I've been yelling about these things for an awful long time. And really, this is not just the cops. This is the prosecutors, the cops, the city councils, whatever it is. No one wants to hear it. They let these people get away with it. As I said, I went and visited a court because I drove my father's car one night, and it turned out he forgot to renew his registration. Cop got me while I was next to him. I didn't even know I was going to the gym. And I went to court. And of course, my case was dismissed because we took care of it that night. We got the registration taken care of. But I watched people come into this courtroom. A judge sat there, and he was nothing more than a toll taker, because every word out of his mouth was, well, how are you going to pay for that? Can you pay for that today? Can you find somebody to lend you some money to come down and maybe give you $100 so we can pay the court something? You think you can pay something today? He sounded more like a huckster than a judge. And the problem is, there wasn't one cop in that courtroom. Not a one. There was just that judge and all these idiots who didn't know what their rights were. And I've always said, if you don't know what your rights are, you've got none. Well, the judge, who's supposed to be the one who's taking care of a fair system and making the system fair, should have said to them, well, you know, sir, the state hasn't showed up today, and there's really no witness except yourself if you want to be stupid enough to open your mouth. So we're gonna dismiss this case because the state didn't bother to show up. Well, the state didn't bother to show up in any case, even the ones where people had gotten a lawyer to come in. One woman made a U-turn, got a ticket on that. She had a lawyer with him, and the judge lambasted the lawyer for daring to come into his court to go fight a U-turn ticket. Meanwhile, not a cop anywhere. Nobody who wrote any of these tickets was there. They were all out there using their time more wisely, writing more tickets, I suppose. But they didn't care. Now, if you've got 2 minutes, I'm going to tell you a story why I think they're able to get away with that, and it's important.
I think we got exactly 2 minutes, so go ahead.
Good. In Pennsylvania, I remember 15, maybe 18 years ago, they put a ballot question on there for the people on a off-year election, so hardly anybody voted on it. And even some of my friends, who I think have brains in their heads, didn't vote with their heads. They said, well, it's for the children. The question on the ballot was, well, should children have to testify in front of their accusers in a child whatever thing? Of course, it wasn't that. It was anything. And it turned out that now they amended the Pennsylvania Constitution so that you no longer have a right to face your accuser. Your accuser now can, well, I heard what the accuser said, and the accuser said this, and that's what they're doing. That's why I'm guessing there's not a cop in that courtroom, because they're just going to say, well, you know, somebody saw it, and, well, we were there, and, yeah, the witness isn't here, the cop that gave you the ticket, he's not here, but he doesn't need to be. The people were bamboozled. When I walked into the polling place, I said, well, where's the constitutional amendment that you want to change? Oh, well, we had the ballot question up. I said, no, I asked you where the amendment was. And then I asked her, I said, where's the copy of the Constitution? Do you have any Pennsylvania Constitutions here? No. You know, good old, what do they call those? The women voters, or what was that? The ones that stood there and manned
monitors.
Yeah. So I had a state senator right across the street. I said, oh, no problem. I went across the street, grabbed a box of those Constitutions, and stood there at the door handing them out to people. Didn't matter. The people voted away their ability to face their accuser. It was gone forever.
This is why, especially when you talk about the traffic court, we believe that it's very important to have videos in the courtroom, because it sounds like until you actually went to court, you thought that maybe court was different, and it made such an impression on you that you're still talking about it. Well, if cameras were allowed in the courtroom as a matter of course, everybody could see what's going on, and a lot of things would change.
And they do not want cameras in the court when everybody's making deals.
No, they certainly do not. And I'll tell you right now, not only that, they go as far to tell you that you can't have a camera when you're paying your bill at the whatever in the office building that they're in. That's a lot of crap too.
Listen, Howard, we have run out of time, but I got to tell you, I love getting phone calls, I love getting phone calls from Bangkok, and I'll tell you, you could probably do a show on your own. We'll do it by Skype, and I can figure a way. Do you have Skype?
I do.
I got. You could put a mask.
No, I call in via Skype.
Oh, right.
Because I need to. I want to try Skype, but maybe I'll ask you during one of these shows to do it. But we're out of time. We got to go. We'll be back tomorrow, and if you call 15 minutes before the show starts, and I'll try to see if we can get Skype working.
We'll see if it can work. Everybody have a great Tuesday.
I'll put it on the calendar. I'll do that.
Okay,
Bye.
thanks. Bye-bye. That would be great.